Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And thank you so much for tuning in. I have a really special, fascinating, and interesting guest with me today. Her name is Jeni Archer. She is a certified hypnotherapist, past life regressionist, spiritual alchemist, energy worker, aura photographer, professional witch, and the founder and owner of Hearth Magic LLC, which offers services to her clients as non-medical alternatives to promote desired change and well-being in their lives. Jeni, first of all, thank you for being here and welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Second of all, when do you sleep?
In between, in the time in between.
Yeah, this is actually really quite the bio. I talk to a lot of people who have lengthy bios and are very fascinating, but this is like, wow, how did you get to this point in your life where you had followed this path? Did it just kind of happen organically, or you woke up one morning and say, "Hey, I think this might be interesting"? So just tell the listeners what happened, how you launched this incredible career path.
So I grew up in the South. I grew up in an evangelical family, pretty typical raising, had a very happy childhood. But I always saw things, I always heard things, and the spiritual tradition I was given didn't really have a name for those things that weren't bad. And I knew that what I was seeing and hearing and knowing wasn't anything bad. So I was the weird kid in the 80s in the basement of the library, just reading everything I possibly could to learn. And so I just kind of brought myself out of that by my teen years, um, and had a bit of a spiritual kick in the pants around 2011. I had a spinal cord tumor that
Ooh.
paralyzed me for about a year, and I had to relearn how to do everything. Um, and I had two small children at the time, and the interesting piece for me is being someone what I do, it was right at the level of my heart chakra.
Uh,
So it was is something that I believe that I put in my path before I even incarnated. If I hadn't caught up to where I needed to be by that point, I was going to kick myself in the tail, literally sit myself down and make me think about what I'm doing.
mhm.
So that just kind of opened the doors for me to accept everything that I had always been and started me on this pathway. We moved to New Hampshire, where my business is and my family is now.
Mhm.
And I bought the local metaphysical shop for
Mhm.
a few years
Mhm.
and really enjoyed running that. Ended up selling that and stepping away to do some more education, step into the hypnotherapy piece and the past life regression piece and do some training there. And I was fortunate enough to be trained by one of the top students of Dr. Michael Newton, who wrote Journey of Souls.
Mhm.
So I was very grateful to be able to train under her. Bryn Blankenship is who I trained under. And so I was able to add all of these different pieces to kind of my toolbox. And for me, it gave me a way to meet people where they are. So when people come in, they may not be ready to have a tarot reading, do a spell, talk about things like that. But they may be okay doing clinical hypnotherapy and parts therapy, and we can help them find their voice and start healing that way. So this way just gives me all these different pieces to be able to access whatever my clients need at that time.
Mhm. Okay, I have two questions for you. So,
Yeah.
first of all, tell us what it was like going to you grew up in the South,
Yes.
and then to me, it seems like that's a pretty big shift or a big change, going from living in the South to New Hampshire. Two different worlds.
Yes, absolutely. So it helped that I was also autistic and ADHD, so ADHD and a lesbian. So that helps break you out of some molds in the South really quickly, um, whether you like it or not. And my wife was raised in a town about 45 minutes from where we live now. And we'd brought our children up when they were preteens on a road trip through the Northeast and showed them where, she grew up. And they both wanted to move. We wanted to move. And so within 2 months of that road trip, we'd sold our house and moved up here. And my wife, bless her heart, is very, very used to me. And so when I got out of the car the first day we were in New Hampshire and I stepped down and I put my foot on the ground and it just went right through me. And I said, "Oh shit." And she looked at me, she goes, "Are we moving?" I said, "Yep, we're moving." She goes, "Okay. How soon?" "I don't know, but we're moving." And immediately, and our house was right there. It was the perfect house, everything lined up. So she jokes all the time, listen to the witch, because things just go if you go with them. But yeah, it was a huge change, huge shift, cultural shift for sure.
Wow. Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, and so since you mentioned that, the moving and everything, because my husband and I are in the middle of trying to relocate to another state.
Oh,
We're here in Colorado, and I've been here 47 years. We're in Denver. He's been here 45 years, and I mean, it's a huge change. And trying to all the moving parts and stuff, and finally, it was like, you know what? We need to just take a couple of steps back. We're
yeah.
pushing too hard. We're trying to force things, and this is not happening. I knew it was going to be stressful, but this is not right.
Yeah,
So at
yeah.
least I was smart enough to figure that out.
That's awesome that you were listening to yourself. The energy is not going in this direction. We need to just breathe through it and wait.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. So that was the
absolutely.
first thing I wanted to ask you because I kind of figured because my husband is from the South and I've been there several
Oh yeah.
times. So yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Different
yeah,
world.
yeah, different world. And then the other question is, as a, former medical person, I was a respiratory therapist and then a physical therapist for, those are my two careers. I mean, tumor on your spinal cord,
Yeah, it
that
was a
is,
schwannoma.
and you were bedridden, basically you couldn't walk for a whole year?
Yeah, I was in a they I had to go to I came out of surgery paralyzed and with pneumonia, so I had to stay in the hospital for 2 weeks to cure the pneumonia.
Wow.
And then they moved me to a rehab facility where I lived for a month and a half, learning how to do everything from chair level because I had two kids. I still have to cook. I still have to do,
Hmm.
everything to care for them. So and then they sent me home at chair level and told me, well, you're probably never going to walk again. And I said, I'm not really okay with that, so we're not going to do that, and decided to do it anyway. And when everybody would go to work and school, I would teach myself how to walk and fall down a lot and got the hang of it.
Okay, so right now I hear angels singing because the fact that you just like, no, I don't think so. This isn't going to work out for me. This is not what I
Correct.
want out of my life. And I've had quite a few guests and even my own personal experience of self-healing.
Yes.
So to emphasize how our mind works, our mind and body works together, if you had taken that prognosis
Yeah.
and gone home and said, okay, this is as good as it's going to get, I'm kind of thinking you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
Right. Well, there's is actually two sides of that coin. So I did have to, and this is something I teach my clients, I did have to completely and utterly accept that that may be my reality.
Hmm.
That may be the path I'm supposed to go down. And I choose to go a different direction, and we're going to try this.
Hmm.
I see that there's always different sides of it, right? And the energy is going to go where your attention goes. So
Hmm.
first I had to surrender into it, and then I could move beyond it.
Hmm. And I love the fact that you were just doing the trial and error, trying to figure out, okay, well, this didn't work. Maybe you
Yeah.
ended up on the floor, or
Yes.
this is,
A lot.
yeah, many times. Good, strong bones.
Yeah.
So yeah, just that trial and error and figuring out what works for you and what works for your body and paying attention to your mindset is so important.
Yes. Absolutely.
So how did this all lead you to hypnotherapy?
So I had, before we moved here, I had had a past life regression because I had had spontaneous kind of past life memories come up for me. And being the kind of imaginative child I was, I thought, well, perhaps I'm just making this all up in my own head, right? Which is fascinating in itself. But I wanted to go to someone who had been trained, and have that done. And the visceral kind of emotional response that happens, it's called an abreaction, that
Mhm.
happens when you are under hypnosis and in touch with a past life, is something that is so deep that it can't be faked. That's not your imagination. You can't do that on your own. There is a connection there that is beyond your capabilities. And so that kind of unlocked something for me. And I knew down the road I definitely wanted to add it into my repertoire for sure, to be able to offer that to other people because there's so much healing that can come
Mm-hmm.
from addressing things that happened in past incarnations and patterns we've carried with us over and over and over, and helping clients release those and not take it into their rest of this life or the next
Mm-hmm.
life is
Mm-hmm.
so amazing to watch happen.
I'm really curious about that because I'm thinking of like, even like generational, you
Yes.
know, um, patterns, let's just say. And sometimes when you're doing the past regressions, are you always, is it always the same person, or could that energy and the focus kind of like swivel into like an ancestor? You know what I mean?
So
And
it does both.
okay.
It does both. So we can sometimes we go in with the intention of we're going to take you into a life of your ancestors so you can understand more where the pattern came from because it didn't come from you.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes we go in just as looking for their own past incarnations and
Mm-hmm.
they run into that ancestor or they meet that ancestor, especially when we get to, so we go through as many lives as we can get through. My sessions are 2.5 hours.
Wow.
But we leave, yeah, they're long sessions, but we leave time at the end. So we're in that spirit space, that place that we go in between all of our lives where we plan and we regroup and we meet our guides and our loved ones. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times in that space, ancestors will come in and say thank you, or they want to heal it all the way back down the line. And so we do some work, some spiritual work at that point for just healing that all the way through the grid, all the way back through their ancestry and stopping it here.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating because my dad was an immigrant. So he
Yeah,
was from Eastern Europe, the former Czechoslovakia. And I know a lot about, I mean, I knew all of my grandparents because my mom's parents were actually from Yugoslavia. So we've got a lot of history back there in that region, which, as you know, is not always a very settled region.
right.
But I do know an awful lot of their history and up until the level of my great grandparents and even great grandparents. But I'm always just really interested to learn even more about it because I really think the things that happen to them, still impact my sisters and I,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
my nieces and nephews.
Yes, absolutely. There's the spiritual piece of it and there's the epigenetics piece. Like it
Hmm.
really does get into your DNA, that trauma. So,
Hmm.
there's different ways that we can heal all of that. This is a way we can address that emotional piece of it for sure.
Hmm. So that was when, okay, so that's when you went into the hypnosis, correct? Or
Yes.
did
So
you?
after I sold my business,
Hmm.
because I had the metaphysical shop in town where I did tarot and energy work and classes and workshops and things like that. And I wanted to add that to my list. And there was some stuff going on with my family that I needed to take some time out anyway.
Hmm.
So I just sold the business and stepped aside and did that, and then started this business with
Hmm.
everything all together. And now I'm looking for another brick and mortar space because I'm ready to expand back into that community piece.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's one of the things, I think one of the few blessings actually that came out of COVID was understanding and learning that, oh, hey, we can communicate, online and through
yeah,
video and even do healing type of therapeutic things during that way as well, which before it was like, well, no, you have to physically be there. So thank goodness we now know that it can be done. But there's nothing quite like having your own physical space and your own
absolutely.
little brick and mortar.
Absolutely.
So congratulations on that. That's wonderful.
Thanks.
Okay, now let's keep going here. I'm really looking at that professional witch. I mean, is there like a college that you go to, a university?
Absolutely. No. So technically, if you break down just the semantics, right? Professional is just I get paid for it,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Instead
Hmm.
of amateur. So the reason I put it that way, one is I work all the time to try to reduce the fear around that word
Hmm.
because all a witch really is someone who is in control of her own energy, who knows where she stands energetically and is able to regulate her energy and co-regulate other people's energy with them and to affect the energies around her, the connections with nature, the connections with other people, the connections with community. So it's all about how you walk through the world, how you see the world, and how you can affect change in that world in
Hmm.
a very gentle, divine, feminine kind of way both on the gentle side of the divine feminine and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes on the Morrigan side of the divine feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whichever way we need to go with that. Um, and so in that realm, I teach witchcraft classes, which in my mind, it's just empowerment classes, right? We're teaching people to find their own power, but I'm putting that word on it to reduce that fear because you
Mm-hmm.
are doing what is technically considered witchcraft. We are doing spells. A spell is a prayer, is a meditation. It's all the same thing. It's just language that separates it. And so working to remove that fear and replace it with empowerment is kind of what that whole professional witch thing is about.
Do people ever kind of cringe though when they're like, "Oh my goodness, we're going to do spells"? I mean, do you ever get that like, "Oh," kind of
Oh,
reaction?
all the time. All the
Okay.
time. And I love it because I say, wow, go ahead, tell me what's coming up for you. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, any kind of emotional response, that's a way in to help someone hear their own voice. Whose voice is that telling you that you're afraid? Is that
Mm-hmm.
yours? Is that
Mm-hmm.
someone else's? That gives us a way to start the conversation.
So, do you work primarily with women, or do you get men that come to you as well for your services?
I do work primarily with women. I am very fortunate to be in a little artist town in southern New Hampshire, so I do get quite a few men
Mm-hmm.
as well, but I would say it's probably easily an 80-20 split on the women's side. Um, and honestly, I find that to be okay for
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
especially given just astrologically, a few years ago we moved out of Pisces. We had been in Pisces for millennia, and that's where the divine masculine was kind of running the show, which is great. We all need both, right? But
Right.
I think we got a little too far ahead there. And so swinging back around when we switched to Aquarius, we switched into the divine feminine. So that's why you're seeing this rising of the feminine energy and the divine feminine coming up now for women and for men. And
Mm-hmm.
so the people that are accessing that energy are the ones that are finding me.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever have someone come to you and they want to try your services or they want help, but they still have a little bit of like, I'm not so sure about this? I mean, to me,
Absolutely.
it seems like New Hampshire is a pretty open-minded society from what I know about it, and I don't know a whole lot.
It is. People joke that it's the South of the North. But having come from the South, I just kind of chuckle at that because you don't understand what you're saying. It is not.
Mhm.
I promise.
Obviously, they have never been to the South.
Right. But I do get people that are curious, but don't really know if they want to commit. And so that's what a lot of the workshops are about and the classes
Hmm.
are about because it's less vulnerable for them to come in with a group of other people, other women that are sitting around and laughing, and we're all
Hmm.
doing the same thing, and they can joke about it, and it's not quite as intimate and intense. And that's generally the way people come to me is through workshops and classes, and then they'll start coming for individual sessions.
Hmm. Now, you do offer a wide variety of different services. I obviously went to your website and did a pretty deep dive, and you have a lot to offer and a lot going on right about now.
Yeah, I think it's important to have, like I said at the beginning, different points to meet people where they are, because
Hmm.
everyone's going to be coming from a different tradition, a different belief system, a different life, a different set of traumas, because we all carry our own traumas. And so
Hmm.
having all these different points in different ways, some people, all they want is an aura photo, but that aura photo is a way for me to connect with them and make them feel seen and heard and validated. And that's the goal of everything I do. I just want people to be seen. That's what everyone wants, right?
Hmm. Tell us a little bit more about the aura photography and the aura photos. How does that work and what exactly do you see once you do the photography?
Right. So the camera I have is an Aura Camera 6000, and that type of camera has two hand plates, and you sit down between the hand plates and put your hand on each one. And essentially, it's reading your electromagnetic frequency. And we all have one. Plants
Hmm.
have them. We all put off an electromagnetic frequency. So it's reading that and it's translating it into colors. And
Mm-hmm.
this is my favorite thing in the world is the crossover between science and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where they kind of come together. So those that comes out in a picture. It's like a Polaroid, so it develops in about 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're able to leave with their picture. So it's really fun for groups to get theirs done, and then everybody goes to dinner and looks at it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a fun comparison. But what it shows is the energy that's sitting around you. And that's where the spiritual piece comes in. So at that point, that's where my intuition clicks in. And I'm looking at these colors and I'm reading the colors. They have basic meanings. It's kind of like tarot. Each card has a meaning, but the language that they are together is different.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the colors and the placement of them can tell me what's going on for you, what you've been going through, what you've been working on or developing, the energy you're putting off, whether you need to step into some self-care, whether you're full of energy right now. Um, I did an experiment. My aura signature is always pretty much the same. And I did an experiment when we were calibrating the camera the last time for the lighting. And I thought, let's just see what happens if I consciously open my crown chakra. And usually my aura picture is very blue with kind of green
Mm-hmm.
over the head. And it just blew it open. It was just white, white, white right over the head. Everything was this beautiful pink, which is my energetic shield. That's what my
Mm-hmm.
shield looked like to me. Um, and so you can change your energy as
Mm-hmm.
well. And so it's just reading what you're holding right there. And the kind I have sometimes will show little orbs across the top, and that'll tell us which guides are with you,
Mm-hmm.
how many there are, whether they're really stepped forward or kind of stepped back in the background. I've had actual human forms next to people that were their lost loved ones.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I had a really, really cool case at one of the fairs that I did a few months ago, and there was a woman that came in, took her picture. There was a very clear white human outline on her left. And I said, someone on your mom's side has passed and they're sitting with you. They just want you to know that they're here. And she cried and cried. And she said, that was my father. And it's so cool to see him. And I was like, yeah, he's photobombing. Like he's right here with you. Um, and so she went off with her picture, happy. And about an hour later, this young woman and her friend come over, and the young woman wants hers done. And I took her picture, and it was the figure on the left side again. And I said, this is really interesting. There's someone on your mother's side that is coming through. And so she cried. She's like, it's my grandfather. I'm so glad he's here. And so we talked for a little bit, and she went off, and they came back to me later. They were mother and daughter. So it was the same spirit. It was the mother's father and the daughter's grandfather that came in he was there for both pictures. So that was really cool to see
Okay, so that answers the one question that I had floating in my head was, are you ever surprised?
all the time. Yes.
Do you ever have a situation like that that I don't want to say backfires, but isn't quite as pleasant?
So the way I look at that is every person's energy is beautiful in whatever condition it's in. There are times when it is very clear based on their aura photo that they are not okay. They're
Mm-hmm.
not okay emotionally, they're not okay physically. Um, and what that does is it opens a space for me to kind of hold them in that energy and say, I see you, and I see that you're hurting, and I'm sorry you're going through this. Here's some tools that may be able to help. Here's some numbers that you could there's different ways that I can help then.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't ever see it as a negative. I see it as they showed up in my booth for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that allowed me to maybe just kind of give them a hug and help them through that day.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about, having a booth or whatever and doing like health fairs or, different kind of fairs. It's kind of still kind of cold right now. It's, I mean, it's April, and
Yes.
I live in Colorado, and it's
Yeah.
surprisingly not nearly as cold as what people think. Having
Yeah.
said that, it is, getting close to the end of April. We'll probably have a lot more snow next month because
Yeah.
April and May are our snowiest months. But what's going on, like weather-wise, with you? And obviously, is this a seasonal thing when you can get out and do fairs?
Yeah. So most of them are indoors, thankfully, because it is
Ah,
New Hampshire. So
yeah.
we'll get snowed on otherwise. But we're usually done with our snow by about now. I have a friend that lives in Fort Collins, so we joke about how it leaves us and goes to her
Hmm.
um, about this time of year. Um, but most of them are indoors. I do a pagan fair in the fall
Hmm.
outside, but it's beautiful here
Well,
in the
yeah.
fall. That one works out perfectly.
Yeah. Okay, so now how did you come up with the name? Hearth?
Black magic.
Yes.
So for me, magic with a K on the end like that is meant to differentiate from stage magic, rabbit out of the hat kind of
Hmm.
magic. And that's just a personal preference. Like there's no right or wrong way to do that, right?
Hmm.
And the hearth part was really important to me because I wanted my business, my what I offer to be something that people can gather around.
Hmm.
So I want my business to be very, very community focused and for this to be a place where people can come and warm themselves and feed their inner fire and learn how to ignite that for themselves. And so all of that imagery was kind of swirling for me. And I thought, you know, in my own personal practice, as far as not a professional witch, but like at the home, my stuff is has always been around my family, my home, my children, my hearth, that kind of
Hmm.
thing. So it just seemed like a natural fit to me.
It does sound very inviting,
Hmm.
very warm, and who doesn't want to, just rest in front of the hearth or the
Yeah,
fire. Just,
yeah.
yeah. I grew up with, well, fireplace in the den and a fireplace upstairs in the living room, and
Oh,
so yeah, a lot of yeah,
comfort.
wonderful memories about that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So, what do you see? How do you see yourself in the future?
I would like to be a community hub. So that's one of the reasons I'm looking for the brick and mortar space now, why I'm ready to move back into that. I do want to have a very small retail space up front, just
Mhm.
so the things that I'm telling my clients that they can use, I have
Mhm.
on hand. So I think that would be very helpful. I do miss that part for
Mhm.
sure. And then I want to have space for my sessions. I want to have kind of, I envision the back of wherever my space is as being kind of a like 60s, 70s kind of, intellectual salon feel. I want to have a bunch of couches. Everybody can sit around and have a cup of tea. You can just come in and talk about, what's going on in your life, current events, spiritual topics, things that are happening for you, your spirit, your path, your journey. And then I want to have an experiential piece as well. So you can come in, pay a flat fee. Here's all the instructions and the supplies. Go make a spell bottle.
Mhm.
Go make a besom. That rotates and there's a different craft coming in. I want to have a kids corner where they can do painted rocks or they can do little spells. Like when my children were little, they're not going to sit there and wait for a whole ritual candle to burn down. Like they have to,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. So I would use birthday candles because they burn really fast. So
Mhm.
different things that can engage the community and give them a place where they can come and rest and discuss.
How old are your children now?
They are 19 and 22.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they pretty darn proud of their mom?
My oldest is vaguely aware of my presence in the community. Very different child. They are totally on their own path, and that's wonderful. It's beautiful. My youngest is pretty much like me.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I want to keep expanding this company, this business, is I think it would be something that she could easily step into because she has all the same kind of abilities and talents that I came in with. So, and we've had a lot of past lives together and a lot of
Wow.
different kind of connections that way.
So she's fully aware that she's got these abilities.
Oh, yes, since she was very, very young. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so tell us a little bit more um, about your services. You know, tell us how people can find you, how they can connect with you. Do you do consultations, over the phone? Do you do it via Zoom? Just a little bit more about about your practice and, how you run your business and how you work with people.
Okay. So right now I have an office. When I teach classes or workshops, those tend to be at different locations. So everything can be found on my website, which is at hearthmagic.com. Magick,
Mm-hmm.
magic, hearthmagicshop.com. Sorry, my mistake. And when you go on there, just be sure you're checking which location things are happening at. But as far as the sessions and things like that, I do everything remote or in person.
Mm-hmm.
So anything can be done remotely, even the energy work can be done remotely. Past life regression, I do all of these things remote as well. So there's clinical hypnotherapy. That may be something that you're wanting to address anxiety, fear of flying, something like that, or trauma. I work with a lot of trauma clients
Mm-hmm.
because I have um, a way of using parts therapy while in hypnosis in a spiritual way that allows us to deal with the trauma without having to regress them into the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of that kind of work on the clinical side of things. And then the past life regression, ancestral regression piece. And I do tarot reading, so I can do that
Mm-hmm.
either way. I can do the energy work either way. And then the spiritual development for people who are looking for a longer journey on their kind of how they're developing their own path, or people who are looking to develop their own intuitive abilities. I do both of those as single sessions or 3-month package.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and all of that information is on the website too. But right now, because I'm traveling so much with the Aura camera, I'm not doing in-person classes. But I do have two Zoom classes that are open right now, one on shadow work and one on shielding that are going to be done online via Zoom.
Okay, I'd like to hear a little bit more about the shadow work, and I'm kind of guessing that the shielding is kind of like up with the shields, to protect
Yes.
yourself.
Yes, it is. That is what is often in the colloquial kind of industry that I'm in is people will say, oh, just put on a cloak of golden light or a white light bubble. And that's wonderful for some people, but I've found for most people, it's like trying to fit into someone else's jeans. So the way
Mm-hmm.
I teach shielding is I take them through a guided meditation where they discover what their own shield looks like. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, because Spirit has a sense of humor and I am not a pink person, it's pink cotton candy looking stuff. But for some people, it's like labradorite flames. I had one client that was just absolutely the most whirlwind energy person I've ever met. And of course, hers was this whirling dervish of sand. And I'm thinking that would give me so much anxiety, but it made her feel so safe. So everybody's is different. So I kind of just lead them through that. And then
Mm-hmm.
the shadow work piece, that is a really, really beautiful place to start. That's how we really start cracking open people that are ready to dig into their spiritual walk. And what that entails is first we talk about what shadow work is, what it isn't, right? It's not a
Mm-hmm.
self-shaming exercise. It's not any of this. What shadow work is it's, oh, let's look at the patterns in our lives and the things that I do that I don't want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
let's dig back and find out why I do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at where that came from, find the root of that, and let's work on healing that. And so we go through all of that, and then we have kind of a journaling period where everyone is writing out. We just go to one incident just to start
Mm-hmm.
because we just want to crack the doors. And then we do a guided meditation for releasing that once they've had time to process it and sit with it. And that just kind of gives them, I tell my clients all the time, my goal is for you not to need me, right? That means I've
Mm-hmm.
done my job if you don't need me anymore. So it's just kind of training them. This is how you get into shadow work. You can do this with every single instance and everything that you want to address. So it's kind of the beginning of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then another thing, it was your services are non-medical, so they're
Right.
non-medical alternatives, which
Correct.
I think, especially as a former Western medicine trained person in two different fields, that's really nice to have alternatives
Yeah,
to traditional
absolutely.
medicine. It's not saying that, well, you never go to, seek advice or whatever from them, but just it's always so it's empowering to have
Yeah.
other options and to be able to get a little deeper understanding of how your body works, how your mind works, and then how your energy field works and all of the other, putting it together in a holistic package. So I think if more people could do that, we wouldn't be all flying around with, our hair on fire, which it seems like we are all these days. Uh-oh, you froze on
Medicine.
me. There you
Oh,
go.
sorry. I would love for people to be
So try that again if you can, that you would love for people to.
So I work in tandem with a lot of traditional therapists, talk therapy. My clients, I'm working with them in hypnosis, and they're working with their traditional therapist at the
Mhm. Okay, it seems like we're having some issues with the
Oh, that's
internet.
okay.
You keep going in and out. So there's not a storm here. Is there a
Oh,
storm
no.
there?
It's
No.
beautiful and sunny.
Oh, maybe there's some little gremlins in my
Yeah,
computer or something that doesn't like this topic. But
right. But I
so
agree
yeah,
with you. I think we
yeah.
can, lavender to go to sleep and a
Yeah.
doctor for a broken arm. I think we can do both, right?
And I think that when we do have the options of alternative therapy and treatments, as well as traditional Western medicine, I mean, our lives are so much healthier. And I think we're a
Yes.
lot more grounded. And it makes so much sense to do that. And, years ago, it was always looked down upon that,
Right.
oh, those, you can't do that. And hypnosis and all that stuff was all this voodoo. But it seems like now in this day and age, even medical professionals are starting to recognize some of the value and the benefits of alternative medicine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the more you know yourself, your body, how it works, when you get in trouble, then you've got that kind of information that when you do seek advice,
Yes.
it's empowering.
And you can advocate for yourself in a different way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so Jen, where can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you? How can they connect with you? And
So
just tell us whatever you wanted to promote. We'd would love to hear.
yeah, so they can find me on my website, hearthmagicshop.com. There is an email on there, same thing, hearthmagicshop@gmail.com. There's a phone number that you can reach out. You can call or text that phone number. There's a chat option on my website. I have groups on my website that I just launched actually yesterday so that people can start having discussions over different things, and there's topics to kind of organize people's thoughts. And so that's starting to get off the ground. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram under Hearth Magic. And I would love to connect with anyone who's looking to.
Are you on LinkedIn as well?
I am on LinkedIn. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
I am.
Okay.
I don't get over there a whole lot, but yeah,
Mhm.
I am.
Okay. Yeah, I find LinkedIn is the bomb for me. I just really
Oh,
like it
good.
and love it. Yeah. So, and
Oh,
that's why
good.
I always connect with my guests. So I post there a lot
Yeah.
on the episodes and stuff, so people can, keep up with what's going on.
Yes, I am on there as well.
Okay, excellent. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been an absolute pleasure and very enlightening, I must say. I learned a lot. So, if you
Wonderful.
had any final words of wisdom to share with the listeners, any final little pearl for them to kind of like think about for the next couple of days, what would that be?
You're enough. That's it.
Wow, that is so powerful. I think I'm going to tear up. I mean, it's so simple, but that's so
Yeah.
powerful. And it goes like right to the heart.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thanks for that. And
Welcome.
thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
being here.
much. Thanks for having me.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Wow, what an episode, right? What great information. Yeah, and just remember that check out Jenny's website, check her out on social media, connect with her. Her website is phenomenal. There is an incredible amount of information there. So we can all learn a lot. And just remember, you're enough. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.